Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Just want to say, start today's video off with a quick shout out to all the subscribers, everyone that's left comments. Thanks a lot for that. It's brilliant. I love the engagement and the sense of community that trying to build on this little channel. Also, massive shout out to the two guys that have sort of influenced me, and well, not influenced, but I think more sort of motivated me to do this sort of thing. Talking about my problems. That's Kirky Talks and Uncle Jammer Talks. A couple of other shout outs as well to some new friends that I've made on YouTube. Cherry Chat, check out his channel. And another friend, Clinton Gregor, as well. He's just started a new channel as well, so check out their videos, like and subscribe. It's all good fun. Everyone's got some interesting stories to tell. Also, I was looking on the analytics bit on YouTube with regards to the subscribers, and I think there's only I might have how many, 30 something subscribers. And when I sort of look at trying to see who's subscribed, I can only see about 10 people or whatever, which is a shame, because I'd like to be able to know who is subscribing, and then I can subscribe to your channels as well, if you've got them, if you've started a channel. So check out your settings on YouTube, because most people have got it set to private, so no one can see that you've subscribed or whatever, which is a shame. I'd like to know exactly who is subscribing, just to give you a shout out, and just to sort of thank you properly, really, because most people, I don't know who they are or whatever. It's a lovely day today. Check this out. See the steam rising off the shit in the field. Smells lovely. I love the countryside. I was talking last night on WhatsApp with Uncle Jammer, his channel Uncle Jammer Talks. Check that out. He's done some amazing videos. Absolutely brilliant. I was watching one yesterday where he's walking around, I think it's like Alfriston or somewhere, trying to get people's take on the UK government and Keir Starmer. Hard work trying to get people to talk about that sort of thing. I mean, free speech in England, it's getting seriously eroded away. People are scared to talk about the government. It's turning into bloody Nazi Germany. I've even heard stories of people criticising the UK government on social media or whatever, and about 24 hours later, they get the bloody police on their doorstep. I mean, what the hell's that all about? I mean, it's just it's like Germany during the Second World War. Fucking Gestapo. Bastards. So yeah, the UK government, I'm not going to talk about that today. That'll only depress people. So once again, massive thanks to everyone for watching the channel. Another thing that Uncle Jammer said to me yesterday, he's I think he's watched a few of my videos, and he said, do you try and do all your videos in one take? Is it on purpose sort of thing? Do you do any editing? And I was like, well, yeah, that's the plan, I mean, if I do any editing, it's just because I don't know, I might walk past someone on one of my rambles and I just sort of turn the camera off because I don't want to look like a fucking madman talking to myself on camera. But I think talking to yourself it's not a bad thing. I mean, I'm getting a kick out of doing this. these little monologues that I do. It's a good form of therapy. When you're going through depression and that sort of thing, talking about your problems, it's the only way to, I find, it's the only way to sort shit out. I got helped out massively by a psychologist that I found, and I remember when I did the first session with him, he didn't really say anything. He just sat behind his desk, just sort of looking at me, and it was just up to me to just sort of talk, which I found it really hard the first time. I found it really hard to talk about the shit that I was going through and stuff. But I think, looking back on it now with hindsight, that's the only way to start off a session of therapy, because the guy doesn't know you, so you've got to give him something to work with, and the only way to do that is to just talk about yourself, which I found really hard to do to start with. I'm sure a lot of people do as well. It's not easy talking about yourself, unless you're a complete fucking narcissist and you got your head right up your arse and you love your sound of your own voice or whatever. I really struggled with that to start with, and I came away from that first session thinking, oh fucking hell, what a waste of money. I was expecting the guy to just sort of instantly help me and tell me everything I sort of wanted to know, but he didn't. So it's like, half an hour, me just sort of laying the groundwork of the shit that I was going through. So I came away pretty pissed off after the first session, and then I carried on going back, went back next week. And little by little he'd have more things to say because he knew more about the situation, and that way he could sort of help me. So I'd say like after about 10 sessions, it's like we're sort of best friends. We just talk about anything. And then I sort of, it twigged that just talking to someone that doesn't know you, do you know what I mean? So you're not being judged or anything. I found that really a real help. So yeah, massive thanks to him. Absolute top guy. Going back to Uncle Jammer saying about me doing these little one-take walk and talk type things. I told him, I said, yeah, I mean, editing is a pain in the arse. I can't be done with it. It takes up a lot of time. So I'd rather just shoot everything in one take and just ramble on. It's more fun. Completely unscripted. I just sort of get ideas in my head, as I'm going about my daily routine. Might be in the shower, brushing my teeth, having a shit. And these ideas come into my head of what I could do a sort of video about. And I said to him, yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I was a big fan of the comedian duo, the two Ronnies. Absolutely brilliant comedy. And on the two Ronnies show, I mean, if you grew up in England, you'll know about this. The little one, Ronnie Corbett, he used to do. There's part of the show where he'd do like a long sort of monologue, like a fairly lengthy sort of joke, and he was like sat in like a massive chair, which made him look even smaller. And I said to Uncle Jam, I said, yeah, I mean, I'll try and do the sort of Ronnie Corbett thing. I like this style, so I try and keep it like that. And once again, I can't be fucked with editing. So yeah, that's the plan with that. So yeah, just out and about today. Alright. And a couple of guys doing a bit of work there. Doing something to the phone lines, I think. Hopefully they're installing the fibre optic internet, because our internet here is so shit. I mean, if you look around, I mean, this is what you're dealing with. I live pretty much in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's not exactly a busy part of France, but that's partly why I like it, really. It's quiet. I've lived in some fairly hectic places before. Years ago, well, when I first came to France, I lived near Marseille, that's hectic. Before that, I lived in Bournemouth, which was nice back then. It's turned into a bit of a shithole now. It's turned into a bit of a seaside sort of, hen night, stag do type fucking place. It's got a massive drug problem now, massive homeless problem, which is sad. Like a lot of places in England now, they've just gone so downhill. Spent a little bit of time in London, not long though, because I fucking hated it. I lived on a building site in Hounslow. What a shithole. And that was 20 odd years ago. I can't imagine what it must be like now. I was doing a little bit of roofing with some mates when they built this new like massive Royal Mail depot, like right at the end of the runway of Heathrow Airport. So we were on this fucking roof of this huge unit, and every 60 seconds you've got a bloody jumbo jet flying right over your head. So yeah, that sort of made me a little bit deaf. I got a bit deaf after that. My hearing's fucked. Yeah. So anyway, back to my sort of nonsensical ramblings today. Another guy reached out to me yesterday, sent me a comment. Pretty sure he's English, but he lives in New York. An Englishman in New York, you could say. Probably drinks tea instead of coffee, that sort of business. Nice guy. He's left a few nice comments, and he was sort of saying, why don't you talk about like France a bit more? Let people know what it's like living in France. So yeah, I mean, I moved to France, getting on for like 20 years ago now, to start when I first moved to France. I was just fed up with England. I was only 21, but I just felt like I'd done a hell of a lot of stuff between the ages of 16 and 21, and I'd seen a lot of shit. I just didn't like the way it was going. It was too busy back then. There's too many fucking cars on the road then. Now it's 10 times worse. Try and park your car somewhere in England now. Nightmare. As soon as you get on any road, it's just traffic jams. So yeah, I wanted to move to France because, France was like, back then, it was like sort of 20, 30 years behind England. I mean, the country's like, in terms of surface area, it's about twice the size of the UK, but with the same sort of population, kind of. So everyone's got a lot more space here. That's what attracted me to it. Also, back in the day, it was cheaper living here. It's pretty much the same now. There's not a lot of difference between prices. I mean, the housing market, it's a lot better in France. Instead of being like a sort of roller coaster, like a fucking casino just going up and down all the time, it just, like, sort of house prices just gradually go up a fraction every year. Very steady, very reliable, just constant sort of thing. And prices haven't gone through the roof like in England. I mean, if you go up on the coast here in Brittany, then yeah, you're going to pay quite a bit of money for a house. But if you look for somewhere in the countryside, hang on, there's a car coming. I just have to get off the beaten track a little bit in a minute. But hang on, I'll let this car go past because they're making noise. So yeah, there we go. Jobs are good in. So yeah, I mean, if you go into the countryside in France, you can still get houses at a good price. I saw one the other day. It needed a bit of work doing to it, but it was only about 70,000 euros for like a sort of 3-bedroom house. So there's still bargains to be had here if you want to get on the French property ladder. One of the negative things about France is the fucking paperwork. I'm not saying that in a like I don't understand the paperwork. I do. I speak good French. I write all right. I understand all the shit that I get through the letterbox. There's not a problem with that. But it's just the time it takes to get anything done. It takes fucking ever, and that is one of my sort of major gripes with France. You know, a country that's supposed to be, well, it's renowned for fucking bureaucracy, but the time it takes to get anything done, you end up pulling your hair out a bit. Another thing that pisses me off a bit is the attitude sometimes can do your head in of people in France. They've got a fairly sort of blinkered mentality, I find. You know, the majority of French people don't really go on holiday out of France or certainly Europe. And if they do leave Europe, it's to go to like a French-speaking, you know, old like colony type place. You know, they'll go on holiday to Tunisia or Algeria, Senegal, that sort of thing. Hang on, another car. There you go. It's like the fucking M1 today. Nightmare. So yeah, I mean a bit like the Americans, because they've got every type of climate, every type of scenery where they live. The majority of them don't leave the bloody country. And France is the same. You know, you've got sort of 3 different style of coastlines. You've got some amazing, you know, countryside, and you've got the Alps. You can go skiing. You can do everything in France without leaving the country. So I mean, it's great, but you know, you need to broaden your horizons a bit. Traveling, you've got to travel if you can. Actually, I love traveling. I can't wait to go traveling a bit. I haven't had a holiday in like over a year. So I'm getting on for 2 years now, I think. So yeah, I mean, there's good and bad. Like with anywhere really. One of the bad points is, at the moment, on a sort of political sort of stance, is that in France, the extreme, well, the far right, I don't know if you've heard of Le Pen and people like that, they've actually got a massive voice here, politically. They're not far from getting into power. I mean, like I think in Austria, Italy, I think the far right have got in there, which is a worry. Sort of, you know, reminds you a bit of what happened in the Second World War. Scary. Whereas, like in the UK, the sort of the neo-Nazis in the UK, you know, they're just a complete joke. They'll never get anywhere politically. So yeah, that is a little bit worrying in France. Is how much of a say they've got, and that's you know, because bloody French people are pretty racist, and these, you know, there's a hell of a lot of people that vote for these twats. They wouldn't get there if they didn't have the votes, but you know, so it just goes to show that a lot of the population is voting pretty much neo-Nazi. And you know, you think, what the fuck did our grandparents fight a war for? When you see these scumbags getting into power in Europe, you know, Europe's going to go down the toilet if we're not careful. If people keep voting for these wankers, it's all going to go tits up again. It's not what you need. It's not what our children's need. You know, imagine if our children end up fighting a fucking war against bloody Nazis again. Mind-boggling, frightening. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a good thing about France is like the social security is really good, like the equivalent of like the NHS, if you will. It works. It's pretty much free. You've got to pay like a little tiny amount, but peanuts. And if you've got like a sort of health insurance policy, which doesn't cost the earth, then it's 100% free. So, you know, if you want to go and see your doctor, you phone up, and a lot of the times you'll be able to see him that day or the day after. You haven't got these like ridiculous waiting times like you do in England. Same if you want to go and see your dentist. You know, you'll be able to see your dentist the same week that you phone up. And if it's an emergency, if you, like I had once, had a terrible toothache. It was so bad I wanted to kill myself. I'm exaggerating a bit, but yeah, one of the worst pains you can have is toothache. And I went into the dentist's office and explained it, and they said, yeah, come back in an hour and we'll sort it out. So yeah, that was good. Thankful for that. Saved my life, so to speak. Hospital. If you have to have an operation, you know, you haven't got to wait long. A week, 2 weeks, that'll be it. You'll be in there under the knife. They'll sort it out, which is good. Yeah, so there are good things. There are positive things about France. So yeah, if I could sort of go back, would I move to France again? If I was 21 again, I think yeah, definitely. When you see the state of the UK now, I couldn't live there. I'd lose my bloody mind, I think, with how the country's being run. Well, there's various factors. The population explosion that's happened in the last 10 years or whatever. I couldn't deal with that. That would do my head in. Illegal immigration. That would wind me up. When you see all the homeless people on the streets that the government just doesn't give a shit about. Whereas, yeah, they're putting these illegal immigrants up in 5-star hotels and giving them like 3 takeaway meals a day. What's that all about? There's something seriously wrong with the UK. Talk about mismanagement. Mind-boggling. Yeah. So yeah, I do deep down. I do love France. You know, it sort of reminds me a bit of like England years ago. You know, it's still got that sort of, especially if you live in like rural France like here. It's still got that sort of childlike innocence to it, if you will. It's a bit backward, but once you sort of get your head around it, once you sort of get used to not being in a rush to get anything done, there's always tomorrow, then it's, you know, it's a good place. I struggled when I first came here because coming from England, you know, everything just happens like that. You get everything done quickly or whatever. And then, yeah, so coming to France and trying to sort your paperwork out takes fucking months. So yeah, that pissed me off to start with, but it's just a question of getting used to it. The language, when I first came here, I only spoke like sort of school level French. I'd done French for about 6 years at school. But when you learn French at school, you just learn like classical Parisian style French, which doesn't really help you when you want to actually talk to people. It's good if you want to pass an exam, but conversationally it's useless. Especially where I've moved to. I moved down to the south of France, and the accent that they've got down there, it's like the equivalent of, might as well, it's like being like a Liverpool accent. People from London have a job to understand what Scousers say. It's the same in France. People from the north haven't got a fucking clue what people from Marseille are going on about, and vice versa. So I sort of threw myself in at the deep end there. I suppose for like the first year, I didn't have a fucking clue what people were saying to me. So I'd just be sort of saying, oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. They're probably calling me an absolute twat or something, or probably insulting me, and I was just going, yeah, 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 brilliant, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it took me a good year to be able to understand what the hell people were saying. But after that, that's the only way to learn a language. You've got to throw yourself in at the deep end. You just got to be doing it every day. The only way to do that is to go and live in the country where you want to learn the language. So, yeah, I mean, the language barrier. There's a lot of English people that come here, especially retired people, and they don't really integrate. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, it's harder to learn a language when you're 60 odd or whatever. So there's a lot of English people that don't speak hardly any French. I couldn't do that. I couldn't live somewhere and not be able to talk to people. I'm a people person. I love talking to people. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people will probably sort of say, "Oh, I couldn't live there because I don't speak French," but you could. You've just got to jump into the deep end. Take a hit for a year, not understanding what the fuck people are going about, but as soon as you start, interacting, you pick it up quickly. Especially like your vocabulary, because you haven't got to worry about the grammar or anything, because you're not going to be, you're not going to write a doctorate in France or whatever, so fuck the grammar. I mean, most French people struggle with their grammar. It is very complicated. My kids at school, they fucking hate French, and they're French. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. Most French people, they don't like the writing part of it. It's a pain in the ass. Too many accents on the words, and just like the fucking conjugating the verbs. So many different bloody. I can't go into that now. It just does my head in. Yeah, an overly complicated language, we'll call it. But to speak it, it's once you get into it, it's a piece of piss. Even like when I have dreams now, my dreams are in French, which is fucking weird. Probably just because I've been here like pretty much half my life I spent in France. But yeah, deep down I love it, especially on a day like today. I mean, you've just got this wicked countryside. It is beautiful. Yeah, I recommend it. I recommend it if you've had enough of England and the crap that the country's turning into. Go somewhere else. Could be anywhere. But yeah, France is a good place to start. Not far to go. Not far to go back if it doesn't work out. And yeah. But yeah, I mean, everything is going downhill a bit more now. I've noticed. The price of everything is getting silly. It's getting very expensive to feed a family of 5. Yeah, not easy. Turning into more of a struggle. Yeah. So, what was I going to talk about? I had an idea of something to say. Oh yeah. Going back to like when I started this channel, sort of talking about depression and that sort of thing. Sort of what part of what my struggles are at the moment, what I'm going through. And part of that's down to, I don't want to lay the blame or anything, but part of it is down to when my dad died, because I'm going through a sort of like a delayed grief process thing at the moment. I didn't take the time when it happened to grieve for my dad because I was too busy looking after my mum straight afterwards. Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about my dad today, get a few things off my chest. I was very close to him, spent a hell of a lot of time with him. I mean, here in France, the last 12, 13 years, living next door to my parents. So I saw him every day, morning, noon and night, always doing shit together. especially my dad, because the house that I bought, which is like next door to my parents' house, when we bought the whole property together, it's like there's like two houses on one piece of land in the middle of this little town where I live. And the house that my parents were living in is like a sort of fairly big house built in like the 60s or whatever. Needed a bit of work to it, but nothing major. And the other house was just like a complete shell. It was just 4 walls and a roof. So the plan was for me to do that up and, you know, live in that sort of thing. So I did that with my dad. We did the house up together. You know, everything from, had to put windows in it. I mean, the place, the building had never been used as a dwelling before. It was something to do with a business, like somewhere to stock stuff for it was like a farm cooperative or something back in the day. So it didn't even have any electric in it or plumbing. So I had to do all of that, everything from A to Z. Took a few years, but it's not even finished yet. But nothing ever is when you do it yourself. It takes years to fucking get all the shit done. So yeah, I spent so much time with my dad doing up the house and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, very, very close to him. Absolute legend. He helped me out so much over the course of my life. He did so much for me. Yeah, so obviously when he died, it left a massive hole in my life, sort of thing. He'd had a very hard life, my dad. I mean, if you think you're going through shit, my dad probably had it worse than you. He was born in 1945, so like at the end of the Second World War. Technically a war baby, you might say. A bit like me. I grew up while I was a baby. I was a baby during the Falklands War. That was probably the last real war that the UK had anything to do with. Probably the only good thing that Thatcher did was send a task force down there to get the Argentines out of the Falklands. A guy that I worked for back in England, he was a petty officer in the Navy during the Falklands War, and he had some scary stories to tell. He said it was the real deal, being on a bloody destroyer on the extremities of the fleet, you know, trying to protect the aircraft carriers, and you're getting French-made Exocet missiles coming at you, launched from French-made fighter jets. Thanks a lot, France. Sank a fair few ships. Anyway, I'm digressing on that one. Going back to my dad. So yeah, he was born in 45. And his dad fought in the Second World War. He was in Bomber Command. He was a navigator on Halifax bombers. Got shot down about 3 times. Scary stuff. He flew some pretty hectic missions. Flew raids up to Norway on trying to bomb the Tirpitz. That was pretty hardcore. Also some other fairly dark stuff like firebombing Dresden. Killed a lot of civilians. So yeah, he I think that must have messed him up quite a lot. Poor guy. I mean, when you think about it, you know, these guys doing that sort of stuff, they're only in their early 20s. No one needs to be asked to do that kind of thing. It's dark, really dark. So yeah, my old man, born in 45. His mum was a nurse. She worked on a tuberculosis ward, and as you can imagine, she ended up getting tuberculosis, which killed her in a fairly short space of time. And my dad was only like 18 months old. I mean, I think like a year after that, they cured tuberculosis. So if she'd have got it a bit later, she would have lived. It was absolutely tragic. So my dad was only 18 months old when he lost his mum. My dad's sister was about 6 months old. So his dad had to bring up these two pretty much babies. Well, they were babies. His dad had to bring these kids up, and my dad's grandma, his mum's mum, she was like 60 at the time. So she moved in. She was living by herself. So she moved into the house where they lived to sort of be like a surrogate mother type thing. She became my dad and his sister's mum, which is their grandma. And they were living in this tiny, minuscule 2 up, 2 down house in Staffordshire, the Potteries. My dad was a full potter, loved it. God's own county, he used to say, pretty much on a daily basis. So yeah, I think the place was called Nutton. He lived in Nutton, sort of like Newcastle under Lyme or some shit like that. Silverdale Street, that's where he lived. Google it, 21 Silverdale Street, and you'll see how big these houses are. They are tiny. So yeah, 2 bedrooms upstairs. My dad shared a bedroom with his dad. You know, had to sleep in the same bed sort of thing. I remember my dad telling me that he used to wet the bed till he was about 12. So yeah, not easy. And his little sister shared the other bed with grandma. And that was their life. That's what they did. I mean, his grandma was brilliant. She spoilt the kids rotten, as you would, having lost their mum. So they were well brought up by their grandma. The dad was a different story. He was messed up from the war, messed up in the head from losing his wife. So yeah, my dad didn't have a very good relationship with his dad, which is pretty sad. I mean, I remember my dad telling me that he was a bit of a problem child, as you would be in that situation. He used to get into a lot of shit, did stupid things, and his dad was probably not the best parent, and because of the shit that he'd seen in the war or whatever, he was not very tolerant. So yeah, I remember my dad saying that he used to get beaten by his dad whenever he fucked up, which isn't right. You can't hit kids. That's wrong. But it was different back then. Things were a lot different. Yeah. So when my dad was 14, he was away at boarding school. Probably because he was so unruly or whatever. And his sister was still at home. And I think Granny had sort of moved out by then because she was getting really old. And you know, the kids weren't like babies anymore. They didn't need that sort of constant attention or whatever. So my dad's sister was just living at home with her dad or whatever. And she was about 11 at the time. She came in from school, went into the little sitting room, and she saw her dad sat in like the wing-back armchair type thing next to the gas fire or whatever, and he was sat there with like a blanket over him, and she was like, what the fuck's going on here? She thought maybe he had a cold and he was, you know, had a tub of hot water, breathing in some Vicks or whatever. So she pulled this blanket off. Indeed, he'd killed himself. Back in those days, gas fires had like a sort of It's like they call it like a gas poker or something. It's like a tube with like a little nozzle on the end to sort of like light your fucking gas fire with or whatever. And he'd put this blanket over his head and turn the gas on this little thing underneath. So he gassed himself. I remember talking to my auntie about it, you know, a few years ago, before she died. She died about 3 months after my dad did. Same thing, cancer. Fucking hell. Yeah, I remember talking to her about it, and that really fucked her up, as you can imagine. And I remember her saying that he was just like, when she pulled his blanket off, he was just like completely grey. His skin had gone all grey or whatever. So yeah, that's fucking hard, man. Discovering your dad that's killed himself when you're like 11, when you get him from school. So yeah, I mean, my dad had a hard life. He turned out good though, as is often the case. The people that have got a very shit upbringing, quite a lot of the time, because of what they've been through, it makes them stronger. It gives them that desire to be someone. My dad's cousin helped him a lot. He was like, I don't know, maybe about like 8 years older than my dad. And my dad sort of treated him as like his older brother, you know, they were like best mates. And my dad's cousin, he'd gone to uni to go and be a dentist. And my old man was, you know, when he was like at high school, he was just going off the rails. So his cousin told him to knuckle down and go to uni, do the same thing. So that's what my dad did. Became a dentist. Ended up doing all right for himself, thank God. So yeah, top bloke. So yeah, I think I'll have to probably do this video because I've got loads more things to say about my dad. But I don't know if I can do it all in one take. It'd take fucking hours. So I think I'll have to do like a sort of part 2 tomorrow. I'll continue the story tomorrow. We'll do that. Because I've already gone on quite a bit today. It's going to take me fucking 24 hours to upload this. I've got like 0.2 meg of upload speed where I live. Yeah, it's like original internet speed back when it was invented. So yeah, leave a little like or a comment, and I'll crack on with this tomorrow. I can't do it all in one take, unfortunately. Well, I have done this all in one take, but I'm gonna have to cut the story up into different videos. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Once again, thanks to people that have subscribed. It means a lot. It's nice to know that, you know, some of the things I've been talking about have resonated with people, especially looking at the comments and replying to the comments. It's brilliant. The community, you've got to build that community, guys. Work together. And yeah, like I said, thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Okay, take care. Bye bye.